What does faith do or accomplish when you exercise true biblical faith in your life? Faith conquers, faith overcomes, faith prevails, faith triumphs. Faith is the key to victory in life. With faith, you can never lose. Without faith, you can never win. 1 John 5:4 says, "This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith." It is your faith that overcomes the world. Don't ever think that your circumstances determine your destiny. It is your faith or lack of faith that will ultimately make or break you in this world. I repeat, it is your faith or lack of faith that will ultimately make or break you in this world. When you exercise faith in God, you're always triumphant. Sometimes you're triumphant in victory, other times you're triumphant in suffering. Either way, faith is the key. Hebrews 11:32 begins, "And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell." I love that. Hebrew chapter 11, this great chapter of faith, is now drawing to close, not because the author has run out of examples of faith, but because he has too many examples to share. You will notice that the author picks up the pace here. He does not have the luxury of time to explore all these final examples with the same level of detail he used early in the chapter, but he does not want to leave out any of these examples either. So he moves quickly here, mentioning select names from the Old Testament of faith achieved by these and others like them. So let us look at these examples. Verse 32. "And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and the prophets." We have observed how Hebrews 11 has been working chronologically forward through the Old Testament, starting with creation, working up through Noah and the flood, and then through Abraham and the patriarchs Moses and the people of Israel, and finally through Joshua and the promised land. Verse 32 continues this forward chronologically. The author lists six names here, which together over down the text two stages in Israel's history: the period of the judges, the time of the king, and the prophets. The first four names in the list are Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah represent the time of judges. This was a time period of about 250 years when Israel was in the promised land, but before they had a king. There's a cycle that takes place during the time of the judges. The Israelites turn away from God to worship false gods and idols. As a result, God gives them into the hands of the enemies. Eventually, the people cry out to God for deliverance, and then God raises up a judge who delivers them from the enemies. But when the judge dies, the people return to their old ways, and the whole cycle starts all over again. David and Samuel represent the time of kings and prophets, and so in one verse, using six names, the author sums up the entire remaining Old Testament history of Israel. None of these men were perfect. Each had their faults, but each of them were commended for their faith. Each of them trusted God against the odds. Each of them faced failure apart from God, but because of their faith were triumphant. God is behind every victory in your life, and it's through faith that we are triumphant, not through our wisdom, our resources, or strength. So can you give God all the glory and trust Him even more? Be blessed.